Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Crime Beat, Episode 5, London, by A.C. Fuller, narrated by Emily Sutton-Smith. Chapter 1, Tuesday. Cole rolled over in bed and rubbed her eyes. Where was she? A sliver of gray light peeked through a crack in the curtains, illuminating a neatly made bed beside her. The room was otherwise dark. The bathroom door was open, but there was no movement. Warren. A hazy memory. She'd watched him wash his face through that bathroom door last night. Hotel. London. A screech of pain split her forehead. She groaned. Hangover. Her phone read 6 local time. No message from Warren. Her first thought, a paranoid one, was that he'd ditched her. It was ridiculous. He'd been the one who'd convinced her to come to London. But she didn't see a note. She went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on her face, then called room service for a pot of coffee and breakfast. She'd never spent money like this. She and Matt never had room service money. She told herself the spending was only until she got to the end of whatever this was. Warren's stuff was on the dresser. Jeans folded carefully. Leather jacket hung on a hook on the wall. He hadn't ditched her. And if someone had taken him in the night, they wouldn't have made his bed. She texted, asking where he was, and flopped into a stiff, modern recliner. She'd lost a day on the way to London. The non-stop flight from Vegas had taken 11 hours. She'd tried to sleep, but her conversation with Frankie and the images it forced into her mind haunted her. So she drank. First a vodka with tomato juice, then a whiskey, then a couple beers. She'd thought it would help her sleep on the second half of the flight. It hadn't. She vaguely remembered Warren cutting her off, and something about a pint of cider in the airport bar. There had been a taxi, and then she'd been in the room. At least she'd slept. When her coffee arrived, she drank it while staring out a large window overlooking Trafalgar Square. Ant-like people hurried in all directions against a backdrop of a dozen shades of gray. Light gray stone buildings, a vast stone courtyard, and looming in the center, Nelson's column, a 150-foot column of gray granite, topped with a bronze statue of the square's namesake, Admiral Nelson, who won the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. Warren had lectured her on the military history as she lay in bed, her head spinning. For some reason, that memory had stuck. She finished her coffee by 7 and got to work. Warren would have insisted they work the 9 murders case, but he wasn't there. He hadn't even texted back. She called Frankie in Las Vegas. There it was midnight, local time, part of the reason she still felt groggy after 3 cups of coffee. Frankie picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Frankie," she said carefully. "It's Jane Cole. How are you?" Warren had left Frankie with the number of a drug and alcohol counselor at the local VA, and Frankie promised to call. Cole needed information, but she had no idea where his mind was. She didn't want to push too hard. "Been sober 16 hours. His voice was weary. "Well done." It was a half-hearted congratulations. "That's something." "I need to sleep," Frankie said. "You're calling about Lopez and Morgan, right?" "Yeah." "Figured you'd want to track them down." "I do." "Therapist today said I need to prioritize my own well-being, my health and sobriety. Maybe quit being the entertainer, whatever that means. I'm out on this one. Last thing I need is you trying to drag me back in." "Do you know if they're still in?" A heavy sigh came through the line, followed by a soft thud, like Frankie falling heavily in an armchair. Nah, they're both out. If I promise never to ask you another question, never to mention you to them, can you give me anything else? I need to find them. Frankie let out a wet, heaving cough. Like what? First names for a start. Where they live, what they do. I don't know what they do. Always tried not to find out too much about the guys. Didn't know if they were gonna make it. He sighed. Julio Lopez and Chris Morgan. That's it, though, okay? Cole wrote the names on hotel stationery. She didn't know how long he'd been an addict, but there was a struggle in his voice. If he'd been sober for 16 hours, his body would rebel. She'd worried about her own drinking once or twice since Matt died. It was only on mornings like this, though, when the previous night was hazy, and her head alternated between dull throbbing and sharp electric jolts of pain. Julio Lopez and Chris Morgan were common names, not easy to track down. One more piece of information about each would go a long way to finding them. Frankie, please, give me one more thing about these guys, anything you've heard, something they said about home, jobs, hobbies, wives. Lopez was the beta, Morgan the alpha. Heard Lopez went back to Texas, Morgan to California. Thanks. Cole walked to her laptop, which had somehow ended up on the small desk in the corner. Get some sleep, Frankie, and keep in touch, okay? Warren worries about you. It took her only an hour to locate the men. She found Julio Lopez easily. He was a truck driver based in Houston and active on social media. His Facebook page indicated only 3 interests: the Bible, a soccer team called the Houston Dynamo, and his daughter, who'd been born recently. There was only one picture of the baby girl, and Lopez wasn't in it. His relationship status read single. Cole got the sense that he wasn't close to the mother of his daughter, but wanted to be. His posts had a loneliness to them. No pictures of himself with anyone, and multiple quotes from the Bible about redemption and giving oneself to God after a life of sin. Guilt. That could be useful. Chris Morgan was more difficult to locate. Social media offered nothing, but a public records search turned up a business in San Diego listed under the name Christopher Bruce Morgan. A puff piece in a San Diego weekly newspaper named his contracting business the best in Southern California for opulent homes. Diamond Luxury Construction specialized in beachfront homes for the rich and famous. An article in an upmarket real estate magazine had a photo spread with an image of Morgan standing in front of a beautiful beachfront meditation cottage in Malibu, high-fiving the stunning blonde actress he'd built it for. He had short blonde hair, a nice tan, shiny white teeth, and a shit-eating grin that made her want to punch the screen. Cole walked a lap around the hotel room, which was decorated with sleek, modern furniture in white and black. She examined herself in a mirror, but looked away quickly. She shook her head, trying to shake off the hangover, but the sudden movement made it worse. Walking another lap, she sipped a cup of cold coffee, then stopped at the window. Thin gray clouds were backlit, the sun almost sneaking through. Lopez would be an easier target. He seemed to be having difficulty in life, and vulnerable people were more likely to tell the truth. Frankie said he was the beta of the pair. If he had been involved in Matt's death, there was a chance he wanted to tell someone, even if he didn't know that yet. But how to get him talking? As a reporter, she always had an excuse to initiate a difficult discussion. Most people didn't like it, but everyone understood it. I'm Jane Cole from the New York Sun. Do you mind if I ask you some questions? Now she had no opening, no angle. What was she supposed to do, send him a Facebook message? "Excuse me, but did you kill my husband in Afghanistan 3 years ago?" She studied Lopez's Facebook feed again. For the last 3 weeks, he'd posted 6 to 10 times a day. The content varied little. Inspiring Bible quotes, score updates from soccer games, and the same picture of his daughter, reposted multiple times. Sometimes the photo had red hearts drawn crudely around the picture, probably with some basic photo editing app that came with his phone. Before 3 weeks ago, he'd posted once a day at most. Something had changed 3 weeks ago. She scrolled back in time. A few more soccer updates, and then she saw it. It was vague booking, the practice of posting a status update that means a lot to the poster, but that most people don't have enough context to understand. Those sorts of posts annoyed the hell out of her and screamed attention seeker. Posts like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it," or "How dare she say that to me?" Lopez had written, "Well, I guess it's over." He'd left the apostrophe off of the "it's." She scrolled back another week, then 2, until she found a similar post. "Is it possible she'll take me back?" She closed her eyes, allowing his posts to fill her mind. She'd used social media for work and work only. Others used it out of loneliness or even desperation. A whisper into the darkness in the desperate hope that someone is listening. Free therapy, of a sort. A timeline formed in her mind. Lopez had gotten someone pregnant, someone he wanted to be with. But he was away a lot, driving trucks. He'd tried to maintain the relationship, but it hadn't worked. Maybe he'd cheated or hit her? He sought forgiveness from God, redemption. He'd wanted the relationship to work, but it ended abruptly. She hated what she was about to do, but not enough to keep her from doing it. With a burner email address, she created a new Facebook profile under the name Sandy Beltaggio. She found a dozen photos of a dark-haired model on a free stock image site and loaded a headshot as the profile picture, then filled out her profile with details. Location: Houston, Texas. Interests: soccer, cooking, yoga, Bible studies. Relationship status: single. Facebook wouldn't allow her to backdate posts to build out her fake profile, so she'd have to build it over a few days. She started with a series of posts designed to interest Lopez. A beautiful image of a sunrise with a passage from John chapter 1, verse 18. "Let us not love with words, but with actions and truth." A short post expressing excitement about an upcoming soccer match. Another stock image of the model, now running on a beach. A post about how she'd been divorced for 3 months and was finally ready to mingle again. Another Bible quote. She'd post again tomorrow to fill out the fake profile. It needed to be more convincing before she could approach Lopez. She'd also need at least a few friends with some interactions on her feed. She built 3 more fake profiles over the course of an hour, friending each of the fake accounts from the others, then liking and commenting on posts. It had to look real. She let her eyes go soft, releasing the tension in her shoulders until they dropped. Her headache was fading. There was a click at the door. Warren entered, glistening with sweat. The front of his tight t-shirt had soaked through. "Decent gym in the basement," he said. "Not in the shape I was a few months ago, but—" He went into the bathroom, leaving the door cracked slightly. He took off his shirt, exposing his strong back as he turned on the sink and let the water run over a washcloth. She watched him wash his face, staring longer than she intended. Longer than appropriate. Watching Warren reminded her of last night. Had she stared like this in her drunken stupor, or done something even more embarrassing? She'd never been attracted to muscular guys, At least, not because of their muscles. Matt had been in good shape, but lean. He didn't work out to build muscle mass. Warren was in the kind of shape she'd only seen on the cover of muscle magazines in grocery stores. His slim waist formed the bottom of a V that spread up his back into broad shoulders supporting a thick, muscular neck. Cole forced her eyes to the floor, giving her head a little wiggle, erasing the image of Warren like an etch-a-sketch. She was just out of it, hungover. When she looked up, he had on a new T-shirt. "We should eat," he said on his way out of the bathroom. He wiped his forearms with a washcloth. "Found my old professor. He's willing to talk tonight." She said nothing. He pressed the washcloth into his face. "Cole?" She took a deep breath, stood, and nodded at the empty plate. "I already ate, but I can eat again." "Guy at the front desk recommended a breakfast place. It's near the site of the last shooting." He went quiet, and Cole looked up. Warren was staring at her, his head cocked to the side. "You okay? You were pretty far gone last night. What were you doing while I was working out?" "Yeah, fine. Nothing. Yeah. Let's eat, then check out the hotel where the Deputy Crown Prince was shot." Chapter 2. Cole stared at her plate of French fries, sunny-side-up eggs, and sliced tomatoes. The waiter had convinced her it was a respected hangover cure in England. She needed all the help she could get, but couldn't bring herself to dip a fry in the egg yolk, as the waiter had instructed. She pushed the plate away. Warren noticed, scooped up one of the eggs with his fork, and ate it in a single bite. "How do the London police work?" Cole asked. "Any way you can get a contact?" "Don't know much about it. I doubt it. And it's not even the real issue. MI5 does domestic intelligence. MI6 does foreign intelligence. My guess is they're both in on this. That, and the Saudis are pissed. Saw a headline on the way over that they're sending investigators. And I'd bet they're sending people off the books, too." Cole sighed. "How do we get close?" Warren ate his spinach omelet in silence, his forehead creased in thought. They'd walked by the site of the most recent shooting on their way to the restaurant, but accomplished nothing. Standing in a crowd behind a police line 100 yards from the hotel entrance gave them nothing. Mohammed bin Mukrin had been surrounded by 4 security guards when he was killed. He'd been out of his armored limo for 10 seconds. Police didn't yet know precisely where the sniper was when he fired. No weapon had been found. The only thing anyone knew for sure was that the assassin had been high up and far away, same as the other shootings. Whoever killed bin Mukrin had known about the meeting, known he'd be there. But that didn't narrow it down much. At the scene, Cole and Warren had surveyed the area, heard locals and tourists speculate about where the shot had come from, taken a few photos, and given up. Warren ate Cole's other egg. Cole nibbled a French fry and broke the silence. "In New York, we were so close. Same in D.C. and Miami. Now—" She shook her head, then looked up and met Warren's eyes. He looked concerned. She didn't want that. "Don't look at me like that. I know you're worried about me." "I am." "Don't be." "Can't help that. Has it ever gotten this bad?" "Has what gotten this bad?" Your whatever it is." She leaned across the table, about to launch into a defensive tirade, but all the energy left her, and she leaned back. She picked an ice cube from her water glass and crunched it. "When Matt died, it was bad. Now he's dying all over again. But it's worse this time, because it's not just losing him. It's the injustice of the thing. If Frankie was telling the truth, and I know he was—" "You don't have to finish that sentence. I know. I've worked with enough families of victims to know. You won't feel whole until you know what happened. Exactly. How did you get out of your funk before? I mean, the first time Matt died. Cole wriggled in her chair. I don't remember. Yes, you do. I worked, okay? I took a month off and things just kept getting worse. Then I went back to work. I got promoted. I broke stories. I beat the Times and the Post on story after story. Unhealthy? She shrugged. Healthier than sitting alone in my apartment and talking to Matt's mom and my therapist. And the drinking? One-time thing. I don't like flying, and I overdid it. She drank her whole glass of water, avoiding Warren's stare. She knew he wasn't convinced. Neither was she. Before, did the work keep you from drinking? He spoke slowly, and his voice conveyed a warmth she wasn't used to. Yes. So that's the answer. What? You need to break this story. You need to do the work. Cole put her hands flat on the table. And how do you suggest I do that? Your reporter figured out. He stood. What are you gonna do? You're a reporter. I'm a cop, almost a detective, until you came along and screwed me. He said it playfully. It was now an unfortunate running joke. She smiled weakly. I have no chance, he continued. But I'm going back to the site. I'm going to investigate, talk to cops or people at the buildings across the street. Tonight I'll see the professor I mentioned. He may have insight into the political motive of this thing, but I doubt it. He stared down at her long and hard, then frowned and nodded. Do whatever you need to do to pull yourself together and find out what the hell is going on here. Alone at the table, Cole called Gabby. Straight to voicemail, just like when she'd called her from the Las Vegas airport. Gabby, it's Jane. Did you get my last message? I really need to hear from you. I'm in London with Warren and, well, I don't know what I need, but I need something. A starting point. A thread to pull on Bin Mukrin. Something. She paused, looking around the restaurant. Her heart wasn't in it, and it was coming through in her weary tone. To be honest, Gabby, what I really want to know is whether you can tell me anything about a man named Julio Lopez. One child born recently, a daughter. Truck driver, based in Houston. Cole paid and walked outside where a cold wind bit her cheeks. Sun peeked through the clouds and she squinted into the glare. She pulled up her collar and wandered down the street. She'd told Warren the truth about how she'd gotten back to herself after Matt died. After a month off, she'd worked harder and longer than ever before because she had nothing to go home to but an empty bed and a monkey puzzle tree wilting in the corner. Her therapist had said 100 versions of take time to grieve, and you can't press through it. Emotions need time to surface. She'd tried that, and had only gotten sadder and sadder. So she worked, reporting, and the occasional glass of tequila. That's what got her through it. She stopped at the window of a pharmacy, studying a display of stocking stuffers, candy canes, Christmas-themed toothbrushes, miniature figurines from children's movies, pens and pencils poking out from decorative gift bags. Warren was right. She'd never been good at masking her feelings, and he'd seen right through her. If she couldn't overcome her grief, she could work her way through it. She walked in and found the school supplies. The section was only a couple racks at the end of a long aisle filled with greeting cards. She grabbed a pack of note cards, a corkboard, some thumbtacks, 5 highlighters in different colors, and a pack of the ballpoint pens she'd seen in the window. Finally, she found a spool of white string. At the register, a woman gave her a wry smile. You're either a teacher or you're purchasing the conspiracy theorists' starter pack. I'm guessing you're not a teacher on account of you not buying the number 2 pencils we have on sale." Cole smiled. "You're right. I'm not a teacher. Gonna solve the 9 murders or something?" Cole slid her card into the reader. "Why? You got a theory?" "Read in The Guardian this morning that MI6 thinks it's the Russians. Get that? The Russians killing people on our soil. Bastards." "The Russians? Mohammed bin Mukran? That's what it said." She shrugged like she wasn't truly interested in the story. Most people didn't process the news the way Cole did. This lady had read a story, probably a factually challenged opinion piece, and now repeated it to anyone who would listen. Cole made a mental note to look up the article when she got back to the hotel, then stowed the corkboard under her arm, took the bag, and walked out in the direction of the hotel. Chapter 3. Back in the hotel room, Cole flicked off the lights, closed the curtains, and turned on a desk lamp. She set the corkboard on the desk, leaning it against the wall so it faced her. Next to it she set the highlighters, pens, note cards, and string. She closed her eyes and let her mind go blank. Walking back from the restaurant, the cold air had helped clear her head. She'd scanned the article the clerk at the drugstore had mentioned, a wildly irresponsible piece of journalism that cited one anonymous source close to British intelligence. Full of speculation and innuendo, and terribly written, the only significant claim came in the 3rd paragraph. According to the source, multiple Russian operatives, former KGB, are known to have been in and around London in the days before the attack on Mohammed bin Mukran. The source didn't even claim to know that the Russians were involved, only that Russian operatives were in and around London. Stories like this were out there, being repeated by people all over the city along with 100 other poorly sourced theories. No wonder everyone was confused. And that's exactly how the people behind the killings wanted it. She needed to shut out the theories and speculation, the noise of the 24/7 media shouting every story in every direction. She needed to blot out the world, descend into darkness, and see if she could drag out a sliver of light. For over a week, she'd seen the murders in the same way the world saw them. A group of extremists were killing world leaders, business leaders, and politicians in service of an extreme political ideology. It was hard not to see things that way. She'd caught Michael Wragg, and this had clearly been his motive. The manifesto sealed the deal. She tried to set all that aside. What if something else was going on, as Gabby had suggested in Vegas? The rogue JTTF officer had said, "Someone is organizing this thing. Someone smart, someone powerful. But ask yourself this. What if a ragtag group of extremists didn't simply band together on the internet under the leadership of the mysterious General Key? What if the folks doing the killings and releasing the manifesto weren't capable of carrying out the most complex terrorist attack since 9/11? What if the stated aims of the terrorists, the mission they articulated in the manifesto, is just a sideshow, a diversion?" Cole made note cards for each person involved in the killings, along with each major question she needed to answer. Chandler Price. In New York, she'd figured out that the reclusive businessman owned the townhouse Michael Wragg used to shoot Raj Ambani. Though owned by Chandler, it was inhabited by his estranged wife, Maggie Price, a socialite, Instagram star, and product endorser known in the New York City tabloids for her numerous trysts with younger men. At the time of the shooting, Maggie had been out of town, shopping in Paris. Cole learned she'd left town at the request of her husband, who'd known in advance about the shooting. Chandler Price had arranged for the townhouse to be available, but he'd also been unreachable since Ambani's murder. She and Warren used computer...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?